Minutes with me is a more of a dose than you want on a Friday, but then you stack the rest of us on top of it. We're going to try and cover quite a bit over the next couple hours. As we're going through, throw your questions, throw whatever you need in the chat, and we've got a lot of people on here from the agency that will be monitoring the chat and can help respond and get you what you need. So anyway, I'm showing straight up 10 o'clock. I just want to start. I listened to the group earlier, and I just want to let you know that we're here. We know what you're being challenged with. This morning, there were, as far as we know, 25 districts and 1 private Catholic schools that are not open today because either or too few teachers out and they can't find too many. COVID is giving havoc, but you're not alone. So I think it's important we take these next 2 hours. I hope you can relax a little. It's easier said than done, but just remember, we will only get through this if we stick together, support each other, share resources. But if you're like, holy smokes, you know, you're not alone in this. We can stick together to get through it. In any way, we were on with superintendents yesterday, just a lot of struggles. We are here to help and do whatever we can, but we are not going to kid you that you're making decisions and going through experiences that we're not. So we're not going to try and kid you to think that we know what your challenges are, but we can't help you unless you tell us what you need. But at the same time, there are so many amazing, I love this group. Just, you know, listening to Josh at night, I mean, it's like that guy sleeps excited. You know, I don't know that for sure, but I just got to imagine. So hats off. You guys keep the energy up. You're the ones that keep the teachers going, the administrators going, all of you, and make sure you take care of yourself through this. So I'm going to walk us through here this morning. Pat, can you let me know whether you're seeing my presentation, or is everybody okay here?
We're seeing your notes slides.
And see, I never know how to do this right. Let me, okay, can Jay start singing? Are you, yeah, I don't hear you, Jay. All right. Okay, oh, well, no, Jay's running in here. Let me try it this way.
Screen, which.
How about now, Pat?
Perfect.
All right, fixed it.
You were supposed to sing. I didn't need you to fix, I needed you to sing. All right, so welcome January 14th. Once again, since we can't be in person, we're just going to try and get you as much updated information as we can. I've got a few updates that I'm going to share with you to make sure that you're kind of in pace with what we're trying to do as an agency, not just in response, I mean, really not in response to COVID, but in response to where we want to move forward. Michelle's going to give in her staff an update on licensure and accreditation. Wow, did the board make a big decision yesterday to try and help you? We want to kind of walk through some things. maybe some talking points on that. Jay, Tammy, and Sarah have some updates on redesign. Scott Smith and his staff on assessments. Julie's got some things to bring you up to speed on. And then I'm going to talk just a little bit about what we have with new program managers, but then I'm not going to get a lot into details because I'm going to let them give you more of an update on that. Dean's got some updates for special ed and title services. And then Jordan Christian is going to provide some updates on early childhood. But I know it's not, well, maybe not. To me, it sounds like I'm talking fast, but to everybody else, it's like you've never talked fast. But maybe it's just me this morning. Here's something that I want to just keep front with you that we're trying to do a little differently, and we always say pilot, but we're truly looking at how we serve you differently. The idea really came, if it goes wrong, we're blaming it on David Frankoff. If it goes really well, then we just credit all the people that you're going to hear about getting involved. But as our agency over the years, we always had that math person, that history government person, that science, that ELA, that, whatever it is. Well, those people come on, they have to live close to Topeka, they have to be here 40, that's just the way we operated. One thing we learned in this pandemic, we put out a call for some educators to develop a document at that time that we called, we had, oh, Michelle, what was the first one? As soon as we got
continuous
closed,
learning.
Right.
Continuous learning.
learning. It's been so much. So yeah, thanks, Sarah. Continuous learning guidance. And one Sunday, we put out a call, and by Monday morning, we had over 40 Kansas teachers working on that. Then we turned around and we needed a document called Navigating Change. Tons of people. So what we found out was there are amazing rock stars across this state that can lean into statewide efforts. And guess what? None of them were getting paid. And they didn't do it for that. They did it because they were contributing to something bigger, better, and to help their peers. So as we started over the summer, we had some vacancies. We looked at, well, what if we could do this differently? And we created two teams, STEM and humanities. And you'll see on here, and you're going to hear from them a little bit later, Meg Richards and Stephen King are leading our STEM team. And Joanna Mackrell and Nathan McAllister, who came on last summer, are leading humanities. I'm going to let them talk about how that works, but no longer are we thinking, do we have to have someone here 40 hours a week living within driving distance when we have all these rock stars across the state? So they're going to bring you up to speed on this. And we are really excited about tapping into all the expertise across the state instead of just having that one specialist. So, but I'm going to let them bring you some more updates on that. Another thing, and we've talked about this for the last several years, and some of you might remember this visual. 5 years ago, we rolled out KISA. At the same time, we rolled out this thing called Redesign. And for years, we've had this thing called federal ESEA. It was No Child Left Behind. Now it's elementary, secondary. You got title, you got all of that. At some point, we're like, that is all has to come together. So going in to this next school year and actually starting this spring, you'll be hearing about it. we are pulling KISA, Redesign, all school improvement under one team. We will be creating what's called the Office of School Improvement. It could be called Office of Design. We're going to let the team, we are pulling everybody together because we hear over the time, well, if I'm redesigned, do I have to do KISA? If I'm in KLN, if I'm doing MTSS, we are pulling TASN, we are pulling accreditation, they're all coming under one team. Jay and Tammy will be leading that and with that whole group, and we'll be building this as we go because we want to come out in a regional model to support you. And here's one thing I'm probably most excited about. All of that work, school improvement, everything that is changing is going on in our schools. Michelle will be because we also, not everybody knows this. And as a matter of fact, I didn't know it till I came here. Our agency accredits higher ed teacher preparation programs. Michelle, how many, I don't want to put you on the spot, but roughly how many of those are there across the state?
So actually, Catherine, she can put that number in the chat. I think she has that number exact.
24.
24. Thank you, Catherine. So Michelle's going to lead everything school improvement and what we are doing with KISA school improvement. She will be delivering and we've got to connect and get higher ed to really understand what's been going on in Kansas, where we're headed in Kansas. So all of that school improvement, all of that competency base that we'll be thinking about, the personal, all of that. We've got to make sure that our teacher candidates coming out of those can seamlessly come into your school district. So those are just a couple changes. We think it's big for us. You're like, whoopee, just get us what. Anyway, we're excited about that. And just so you know, we will be creating a new office in our agency, calling School Improvement Design. We still have to come up with the name. We want to be up and rolling and hitting on all cylinders by the 22-23 school year. But we just wanted you to have that on your radar. Last thing, just to have on your calendar, April 8th will be the next. Yes, we're just going to plan on virtual. Because even right now, I think if we even tried to have it in person, most of you would be like, I'd like to, but I got to go cover a class at, so we know things are hectic right now. But with that, I'm going to stop sharing. Is there anything in the chat that I need to pay attention to, or are we ready to jump onto the next agenda?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat, Brad.
Okay, so I think, Michelle, you're next.
Oops, I do have a question now. Are we still planning on ELA and math standards updates in 2024?
We will find the answer to that. I think there's people on here that can type in the chat to answer that, but if not, we'll make sure that gets answered before the sun goes down. Well, before the dinner bell rings.
Catherine, can you see my Accreditation Review Council slide? Okay, good. Let me take it to the beginning. I'm not going to try to go take it out of anywhere, but this right here. So good morning, everyone. Good to see you all. Apologies, I tried to jump on with you all earlier, but as you all are very well aware, we issued, the state board voted on a new license yesterday, and that sort of has taken us down a little bit of a bunny trail. So I want to talk with you all about some licensure reminders. For those of you who don't know, Susan has left as assistant director. I think many of you do. And Shane Carter has taken over that position, and he has just done a phenomenal job. And I want to publicly thank him for the work he's done specifically around this license that we're introducing you today. And again, the state board unanimously 10-0 voted to move this forward on Wednesday. quite pleased with them about that, and just want to bring you up to speed on that. So let me back up just a bit. Your LPR spring vacancy, the window's open. That deadline's due March 1st. Shane and Leslie Burton in our office are rock stars, and they are ready to help and answer any questions that you have. Encourage your soups, your HR, whomever fills that out, to be 100% honest, because many of them still feel that pressure of, well, if I have a licensed teacher teaching out of their FACS license and they're teaching a math course, that's a licensed unqualified teacher, but still a licensed teacher. If you have subs filling positions, just encourage folks to report that as honestly as you can, because then every October, I bring that information to the state board, only as good as what you all give me. So stay informed about that. The updates on our automated system, woohoo, Form 21, wow. February 1st, we hope to have that one available for you. This is happy dance time, because that is the initial teaching license school specialist based on mentoring. You can fill out your mentoring opportunity online. And I want to tell you, friends, this is super good news. Make sure everybody tunes in. Good news coming, heading your way. 90% of our licenses are issuing in less than 2 weeks, many of them less than 10 days. That is happy dance rock star moment. So I'm very pleased, as I said, with Shane and the work of that team over there. I had a superintendent reach out to me yesterday to compliment one of my staff members on the licensure side, and that meant a ton. These are busy times for them, and for them to take a minute to say, you know what, Myra was phenomenal yesterday, meant a lot. So some good things are happening over there. So let's move on to this temporary emergency authorized license. Take a deep breath, and just know that this is meant for immediate relief so that my Emma, who teaches 2nd grade, can go to the dentist next week when she needs to leave at 2 o'clock. This is not a license that we are saying permanent. Put an 18-year-old to teach your English language arts class at the high school, because I think my friend Sarah would jump through the screen and say, you're doing what with English language arts? So that is not what this is about. This is about alleviating some of the pressure that current staff are feeling when they are unable to get away to be home to take care of their own personal health, to take care of a family member's personal health, or to attend a professional responsibility. So the requirements are as follows, and please, no spontaneous combustion on the Zoom screen. These candidates need to be 18 years old with a high school diploma. We're a diploma business, not a GED business, so GED does not qualify. High school diploma. They must complete the fingerprint and background check, because we felt like that's the gatekeeper for safety and security of staff and students. No fee, no processing fee. Woohoo, you should be jumping up and down. No $60 fee for them. Only the $50 fee for the fingerprint and background check. And it is meant for that candidate to work in one system only, because that superintendent is going to guarantee that they have vetted and approved this 18-year-old to be a classroom supervisor monitor for a short amount of time. This is, again, I'm going to say temporary solution, not meant to degrade my daughter as a teacher or any of us as educators. It is meant to alleviate some pressures of the current teaching staff so that they sign that contract and come back and see us next year, right? It is valid only until June 1st, and then it will go away. I have not started a large conversation on permanent solutions to increasing our substitute population. I've started a smaller conversation in October with the standards board. We talked about what we might want to suggest as permanent solutions. This is not that. This is an immediate alleviation to a current need that superintendents and staff had. And I am happy to answer questions as well in the chat later on. Last resort, shouldn't fill long-term positions. The application is required for each school that the licensee serves in, and it must be submitted through us, and it expires June 1st, 2022. We sent that out to HR. We sent that out to superintendents. let me know in the chat if curriculum leaders, you all want that information as well. There will not be a link. We're not putting up a World Wide Web link because this is not meant to be a recruitment license. This isn't meant to be anyone and everyone. It's meant to be very isolated to your system for such a time as this pandemic situation goes on, all right? Processing steps are in here. Pat, I think, has put this information up on the list, sir, or on the website for you all, and I'm happy to get it out to you all as well. Wanted you to see the motion. Very pleased with our discussion with the work that the licensure department did that allowed the state board to vote this through unanimously. And I'll pause for a moment to see if there are any voiced questions that you all have in the minute right now. Okay, Jeanette and I arm wrestled and I won. I'm going on with keys to supports. So let me switch gears. That's really not true. Let me switch gears and talk about the Kansas education system supports that we have for you all. The quarterly newsletter has been well received. That has been well received. You all have very much appreciated that. The link is available to you. It just is an update, provides you some checklist information. For example, this piece right here, things that you ought to be doing throughout the year. This email address is available to you if you would like any one of us. I know that I had a phenomenal day in Geary County on Wednesday, spent some time with their admin staff while they were in the midst of settling all things COVID. Also, Jeanette and Myron have been out personally delivering some on-site support. I am in no way saying you need on-site support. We'll jump on a Zoom, we'll jump on a phone call anytime you like. Whatever it is that you need, reach out to us individually or use this accreditation link as well. Our PowerPoints and recordings are on our website as well. Let's get to the nuts and bolts of the logistics. This year, all systems are to have an on-site visit. And yes, my friends, that can be held virtually. That can be held virtually. Both system and on-site team need to complete their work inside the KISA applications. You've all heard me say this before. I had to put on a counseling hat in the fall for brand new superintendents who opened up this authenticated app and said, I have nothing. There's nothing here to tell me the story, so I guess I'll take them on a new journey. That whiplash is what causes us all to go, I thought we were, and now we're, so that house, it's not perfect. We'll all tell you it's not perfect. It's better, and please get in and look at it. You'll see all of our questions. Everything we ask you is exactly aligned to the Kansas Vision of Education from the State Board of Education. Might be some redundancies that we can fix in the future, but we have an IT process here just like y'all do. I can't immediately make those changes tomorrow, but in the future, we can listen to you and we can decrease some of the redundancies and make that streamlined, whatever you need. But it's the story of your system. Someone should open it up and say, oh my gosh, I see USD 102 when I look at this, because then that person can say, and I know what their priority focuses are. All right. Questions about that, I'm happy to answer as well. Jeanette, I hear her all the time say, save, 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 save often, save often, save often. Remember too that your goals need to be written in the year one report. Doesn't matter if you're year 4, 5, second cycle. That way they load up into year 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you get them in one, it's designed to go up into year 2, 3, 4, and 5. So just be careful of that piece. The goals section, these are your priorities, what measures you're using to monitor those, and the strategies that you're working through to adjust those deficits that you noted in your needs assessment. Again, I'll stop. I know that there are many team members on the Zoom that are probably taking care of chat questions. Any voiced questions? Okay. So we are receiving some additional nominations to the Accreditation Review Council. And Jeanette, do you want to talk a little bit about this as it pertains to a link to the survey?
So we're taking nominations, and in the survey, it lists the areas that we're missing in terms of representation, as well as the board districts. And that's why we have that survey. we want to just a little bit of information about you, your knowledge around accreditation, improvement process, and your interest and why you're interested in the ARC, so that we can then make some decisions in terms of who are the best candidates to fill those positions. So that's why we have that survey. That link is a Qualtrics survey. I'll put it in the chat as well here in a minute, so that if you're interested, you can just click on it and then do a nomination.
Thank you. So the survey is related to the application that you would fill out. Okay, I thought, but I wanted to be clear on that. Thanks, Jeanette. Super. She's a great tag team partner. So yes, again, the superintendent this morning said to me, can I apply myself? Absolutely. Can you nominate someone? Absolutely. But you might want to call them and say, hey, I'm thinking about nominating you for this. And again, you have Jeanette's email there if you have questions. We have done some outside visitation team chair training. There's a link here for you to register for those in advance. They have been very well attended. It's been a great opportunity for us to come together and just really try to bring people up to speed on where we are and help them be that critical constructive friend when they go in and visit, right? Our monthly updates, 4 of those have taken place so far. The next one is slated for February 8th. That link is there for you to attend. Those have been extremely well attended, over 100 or more every time we host one of these. So I appreciate you all doing that. And Jeanette, I believe we also try to post these on our website so you can go back and listen. Yep, thank you. Thank you. Quick moment in time, looking at my agenda. So, okay, I have a few more minutes. Let me review what accredited, conditionally accredited, and not accredited mean. These are on your screen. If you are a system not in compliance, you're going to know that. The idea is that you provide conclusive evidence of growth in student performance, and that you have provided conclusive evidence of a quality growth process in your system, right? You've got both things in place. I say this all the time. I feel like I do a pretty good PD day, and you can come attend a great PD day with me and we can talk all about either one of these things, but I don't go home with you to make sure that you're executing what you've said or what you've learned. So that's why that authenticated report becomes so valuable, that you're able to articulate with evidence those things. Conditionally accredited, again, no compliance issues, but there might be some deficit in one of the other evidence pieces on either process or results. I will tell you, friends, more is not better. What we have noticed is a lot of reports with a lot of language, a lot of jargon, a lot of extraneous stuff that isn't really necessary. More is not better. Less is more. Articulating how you've worked through your improvement process in clear and concise ways is much more effective. Not accredited means that you may have a compliance issue, means that you may also have an issue with either your results not moving in a way that shows positive growth for student achievement, or that your process just can't be seen, that we're not quite able to see your process. Again, happy to answer any voiced questions that you all may have. I'll take a look at the chat as well. These are people that are available to support you in any way. And I'll throw my email in the chat if one of my team members hasn't already done it. And we are here to serve and happy to help.
So we'd like to give just a moment for you to ask any questions before we move on to our next presenter.
Pat, I have to make a quick comment. Did you see Tammy Fellers? I completed my license renewal yesterday and she got her license today. What? Yay. Thanks all. Thank you for letting me just publicly be excited about that.
Yes, great work, team. All right, so I think we're ready to move on to our redesign update. And I will turn it over to Jay, Tammy, and Sarah.
Well, thank you, Pat. And I just want you all to know how much I saved you this morning from you being able to, having to listen to me sing that would not have been a good start to this meeting. So luckily, Brad, foiled that a little bit. So in fact, we have some singers on the redesign team. It ain't me. It's Tammy Mitchell and Pat Bone. If you haven't listened to our redesign hot topics for December, you should go back and listen to that. We have some really talented singers on this team. So we're going to, Sarah, Tammy, and I are really excited that you're here. We're excited to see many of you. These are the topics for our redesign update today. We're going to talk about our redesign resolution, connecting the dots. We have some Go for Launch schools that we're very excited to share with you and share with the board in February. We're going to talk a little bit about the redesign success rubric, show you some examples of scoreboards. That's kind of been a term that's really been associated with redesign, and then finish with an Apollo 3 update. So that's what we have for you this morning. And now I'm going to turn it over to Tammy.
Hey, thanks, Jay. So we want you to be a little interactive with us this morning. And so if you have a phone or another device or open a different tab, please go to menti.com and use this code 7505-4203. Thanks, Sarah, for dropping that in the chat. Because what we want to know is, what do you think about New Year's resolutions? Do you do a resolution? Do you follow John Gordon and do one word? So jump on that Menti and answer that first question for us, and we will display that here. So we'll give you just a little bit. What's your New Year's resolution or your New Year's one word? Thank you for participating. Sometimes long Zoom meetings can just kind of get mind numbing, right? So just want to jazz it up a little bit. Survival, yes. Tenacity, peace. Oh, hope, flexible, gratitude, grateful. Work smarter, not longer. Such great advice. Pop those in there for us. We've got another question here that we're gonna talk about here. But by the way, my colleague Jay Scott did some research, and did you know that only 8% of New Year's resolutions last the entire year? 8%. Those are not good statistics. That's not great data. So if you feel like you didn't bother with a New Year's resolution 2 weeks ago, or if you did, but it's already gone, that's okay. That's okay. But John Gordon, who was one of the keynote speakers at our virtual annual conference just a couple months ago, does one word. And there's quite a bit there you can follow for free on how you would pick one word and what it can do to keep your focus for an entire year. So, all right, thank you for playing along. So I don't know about you all, but this is our redesign resolution, and by golly, we're gonna be in that 8% range. We're gonna be the ones that carry this through. I don't know about you all, but sometimes we think, redesign team, and maybe others at KSDE too, sometimes we think we are providing the field with the dot to dot on the left, right? It's very clear. There's 24 dots. It should be easy to connect them, right? And then, and so that's what we think we're doing, right? That's our perception. That's our paradigm. And then we listen to you, and you're telling us that what we're actually giving you is the dot to dot on the right, which if you actually connected all of those dots, it would turn into a chameleon, right? And so our New Year's resolution is to connect the dots. And so more is coming soon about how Redesign and PISA and other school improvement initiatives, MTSS, Kansas Learning Network, how we are coming together. Our goal was to come together as one team by 2026. We're a little ahead of that curve, and we've got some information that will be coming out in the next few weeks, maybe a couple of months. But we want you to hold us accountable to simplifying what we're trying to provide so that we can provide more of what's on the left versus the picture that's on the right. And so hold us accountable to that and say, hey, Tammy, remember you said. So go back to that mentee, because our next thing is we'd like for you to brainstorm with us. What are all of the dots on your plate right now? You can submit up to 10. So go back to the mentee, just brainstorm some words with us. What are the dots on your professional plate right now?
Tammy, you're muted.
Yeah, here at the agency, sometimes when we're running Zoom and mentee at the same time, it's kind of slow to come in. But you see any terms up there that you're like, oh, I like that one. If you're still entering, please feel free to, the more different people have that term, the larger it gets. So yes, COVID stuff, right? That encompasses a ton. Teacher retention, staff shortages, instructional coaching, troubleshooting, upset parents, grant writing, curriculum, exhaustion. Yeah. Yep. So anyway, thank you for that. We want to hang on to that because we just always need to remember as an agency that you've got way more on your plate than we always remember. And so thank you for sharing that with us. All right. Jay, I think I can turn this back over to you.
Yeah, so here are some schools that have connected the dots, at least to this point in their journey of redesign and improving their school. You see on the, basically, if you're not familiar with redesign, you go through an initial plan year. We've really kind of, we call it the year, but it could take different amounts of time for each school. But at the end of that plan year, schools go through a launch readiness process. It includes an on-site visit. It includes a presentation of what they're about to launch. So all of these schools that you see on the screen have been cleared for launch. And in February, we will take these schools to the state board for them to hopefully approve each of these schools' launch. And so the Apollo cohort, which actually their plan year was rudely interrupted by this thing called COVID. And so they have held on. That's a very persistent group of schools that you see there that really kind of had to navigate all the challenges that COVID's brought on in the middle of their plan year. They were super excited to launch last year, but obviously things didn't happen that way. So these schools throughout this school year have come to us and have presented their launch ready plans. They've been approved by us. And so you can see that list of schools there under the Apollo. There are 42 schools total in the Apollo cohort. And there are 17 Apollo schools remaining that are still working through basically their plan year, their plan year experience. And then we have some Apollo 2 cohort. There's 15 schools in that cohort. Their plan year was last year. And so we have Walnut Elementary from Emporia that has been cleared for launch this year. And we still have 4 Apollo 2 schools that are still going through the plan year. So again, these are some schools that have connected the dots to this point, as Tammy was talking about. And so we're really proud and excited to see what they have in store for the future. So with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Tammy.
Hey, thanks. So just wanted to share with you that we do have, you might be wondering, how do you know if schools are successful with redesign? We have a rubric, we love our rubrics, but we thought maybe, you might, if you were curious and you're not from a redesign school, you can certainly pop in and see, what does it mean to be implementing those redesign principles. And so that is available to you for your curiosity. And, some of you might be from redesign schools, and just wanted to remind you that this tool is available for your growth, for your self-assessment and reflection. We do not collect any type of data regarding this, but we do talk from it quite frequently. And we encourage redesign schools to use, part of it or all of it, maybe just one page of it, to spark discussion with their leadership teams as they are trying to align and realign what they're doing with the current circumstances. So we know that redesign plans have to be as adaptive as the situations and the times require. And so this is just kind of a guiding, kind of the North Star, if you will, for redesign schools. So, Jay.
I put the link in the chat like Tammy said, but this is just what it looks like. I didn't know if we wanted to show any of the success rubric or not, but it's there.
I think they can look at it at their leisure.
Okay, so we're going to move on from our rubric to talking about the concept of execution. And a lot of times when we're talking about school improvement, we're talking about 3 things. It's process, it's execution of that process, and then the results. And as we go out and talk to schools, out of those 3, what is the greatest challenge for you? Invariably, most of them will say execution by far. And so as we talk about this idea of executing, think of your own work. Do you struggle more with planning things, right? Developing a process for things, or do you struggle more with executing those plans, right? And I think the last couple of years it's magnified the difficulties in executing really well. So we want to provide a little bit of help and support to you, give you some ideas about how you can really execute well. Our redesign schools, by and large, they will tell you that when they're executing well on things that it's going according to plan, but that they really struggle with that. In the 4 disciplines of execution, we're just showing you the 3rd, but the 4 disciplines of execution really provide a great game plan for executing well, despite an ever increasing whirlwind, right? It's you want to execute on the things that are important, but that whirlwind is pulling you back into those urgent matters. So if you think about it, if something comes up in your school, there's a crisis with a student, right? Those things happen. Are you going to stick with executing on that lesson plan, or are you going to go deal with the crisis, right? The urgent always trumps the important. So the disciplines of execution are a way to execute well, again, in a really strong whirlwind. So I don't know if any of you did this when you were kids growing up with your siblings, if you had siblings, but my brother and I used to wrestle in the house. Now, we got in trouble for that, but if we could do it, we could never do it in secret because somebody's going to get mad and start screaming and doing all those things. But we would just wrestle around, and would be done if something came on the TV or we were just tired, or somebody got hurt, right? We were done. But if my dad would have come in the room and started scoring us as we wrestled, all right, that's two back points, right? 2 for a takedown. If he would start scoring that and there would be a public scoreboard in our house, would that change the dynamic of my brother and I as we wrestled each other? Absolutely, right? Absolutely. How can you, and if you think about it, wrestling is a really difficult sport. Think about how hard your wrestlers work for that Saturday morning match, right? Why do they work so hard? Because the score is going to be kept publicly. How can you get the same effort and focus from your students in science class? You can use this same premise of a scoreboard. You can keep a scoreboard in the aggregate, right? That's important. Nothing personally identifiable, but you can keep a scoreboard in the aggregate that shows student performance in science class, for an example. And the thing about it is it needs to be a player's scoreboard, not a coach's. So this isn't coming from the principal. This is a student or teacher-derived scoreboard to keep publicly. And it should be simple, right? It should be, you count when things happen. It could be averaging numbers. It could be rubric scoring, but you post it publicly in the aggregate, and you will see people, it will change the dynamic. It needs to be high visibility. Put it in a place where the students and the teachers involved in that process can see it easily. It displays lead and lag measures. And I think Sarah is going to throw in the chat, hopefully, an excerpt that we received last week from Rachel Meenan at Andover called Stop Leading, Start Doing. And this excerpt from that book gives you a lot of examples of lead and lag measures as we move forward. So, and you also want that scoreboard to be able to discern the results quickly and how students are doing. So if we could move to the next slide, we have curated a lot of sample scoreboards from Redesign schools across the state. And I think Sarah's going to go ahead and open that up and scroll down to a couple of scoreboard examples. So this first one that you see is from Wiley Elementary in Hutchinson. In fact, both that I'm going to show you are from Wiley. But this one on the left, they are tracking the number of leadership experiences that their students have in that elementary school. And that's their lead measure. They're counting how many leadership opportunities they've gone through. Their lag measure, I'm not really sure what it is. It could be a decrease in the percentage of discipline referrals, right? It could be a whole host of things that are lag measures that you really don't have control over, but you do have control over providing leadership opportunities for kids. So that's a good example of lead and lag in a public scoreboard. On the next one, I just wanted to show this to everybody because I love the title of the scoreboard. It's the next one down. What in the real world, right? What in the real world is the title of the scoreboard. And they're basically taking pictures of students in real world experiences, learning experiences outside, inside the school, and tracking how many they complete for each trimester. So that's a very compelling scoreboard, easy to see how it's going. And then again, that leads to a lag measure of some sort involved with students in real world experiences. So those are just a couple of examples that we wanted to share with you, and just to help you really execute well as you move forward. So we're going to go back to Menti, and if you would, we want to see what you think about what are some things that in your role in your district or your school, what is one aspect of your work that you can keep score on now? Maybe you're already keeping score on it, or you could keep score on that in the future. And this needs to be something that's tied to a very important, a wildly important goal, right? What's the data you can track on a weekly, maybe monthly basis that would indicate you're on track to reaching that wildly important goal? Yeah, these are excellent. Reading scores, student extracurricular involvement, attendance, chronic absenteeism, minutes of independent reading, excellent. How many community internships we've got set up. You know, I know Josh was talking about progress monitoring this morning during the networking session. In the aggregate, you could use those, right? Public scoreboards, parent contacts, excellent. Math, fact, fluency. So there's a whole host of things depending on what your goal is, right? There's a whole host of things that you could look at. These are lead measures. These are strategies that we can track the effectiveness of these things over time on a public scoreboard to really change the dynamic and get people engaged, because that's what happens, right? We set these lag measure goals, like let's say something with the state assessments, right? And then you do all this work along the way and there's no progress monitoring mechanism, right? That's public as you go through. So people lose interest and disengage. So just a couple things to keep in mind as you're talking about executing. Excellent list of things that you can keep score on right now. Thanks for participating. I'm going to turn it back over to Sarah.
Thanks, Jay. So just to close us out, I was going to talk a little bit about what our Apollo 3 schools are doing right now. So this is the plan year timeline, as Jay talked about, with our schools that have received their go for launch. We call it a year, but it really is paced to the individual school. But right now, our schools in the Apollo 3 cohort are entering this building the rocket phase. So they've established a why and a vision. They've established some goal areas. Their staff is developing into goal area investigation teams, or GATEs as we call them. And this semester, they're going to be tasked with prototyping and testing some strategies, some high leverage strategies to move those lag measures, to move those goals. And they'll also be implementing that third discipline that we just talked about, keeping score. The goal being that by the end of this academic school year, that these schools would be ready to launch that plan in the 22-23 school year. So this is just where our schools are in the process, what they've been through and what they're getting ready to do. And so then with that, we just talked a little bit about keeping score. And so we try to uphold that same principle of setting goals, keeping score, and making those scoreboards public. So just on the other side of my cubicle, we have a public display of our scoreboards, but we also like to take time to share the scoreboards that we have with others through our newsletter and then through opportunities like this. And so this scoreboard reflects data that we have from our Apollo 3 schools. So during our Apollo 3 and all of our cohort trainings, at the end of each training professional development session, we ask our attendees how confident they feel to take this learning back, how well they did since last time to engage their staff. But we realized that there was a bit of a missing piece of this puzzle, and that we have never really engaged the voices of the other folks in the school who maybe aren't attending these regional trainings. And so we asked if our schools, just this one time in the school year, would send out this quick 3-question survey to the rest of the staff in their school, just so that we could see how well schools are doing at engaging the rest of their staff. And how that was being lived by the rest of staff. And so what you'll see here is that we listed off some of those key activities that they've engaged in the fall. And out of 101 responses, you'll kind of see how these activities have reached the rest of staff. And we know that some of our schools, as we said, move at a different pace. And so while some schools might have established their goals, there might be some that are still working on that, and that's okay. But we were really excited to see the really high response on these questions on the right. Rate the level of transparent communication and the involvement that you've had in contributing to your school's redesign. And I think at a glance, we can see that transparent communication is high, and involvement in contributing to the school's redesign plan is also very high. And so for us, that's a celebration in that even during a year with teacher shortages and virtual meetings, folks in our redesign schools still feel involved and heard, and they're actively working on making their school better, even with that whirlwind that is surrounding them right now. So this is just a little bit of data that we have from our Apollo 3s, and in keeping with that third discipline of scoreboarding and accountability, the fourth discipline, we just wanted to share that and highlight that with you all today. And so with that, here is our contact information. You can always reach out to us individually, or you can reach all of us at redesign@ksde.org. We also put out a monthly newsletter, so if you're interested in receiving that, please let us know. And we also try to give consistent updates in those hot topics, and we like to keep them interesting by engaging in song. We have not ventured into dance yet, but that could happen this spring. We'll see how things go. So thank you so much. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those.
All right, so looking at the agenda, who is following up next? All right. It's like Scott's team. So thanks, Sarah, Jay, and Tammy, and we'll keep moving along here.
So Brad, I believe I'm going to be speaking, but we at the beginning, and Meg is going to be sharing her screen. I think that's next, I believe. So we'll give Meg just a second to get her screen shared. Hi, everyone. My name is David Frankoff. I'm the Assistant Director here at KSDE on the Career Standard and Assessment Service team. And as Brad mentioned earlier, we have program managers now, and I was just going to do a quick introductions, and then I'm going to hand it over to them. So we do have both Nathan McAllister and Joanna Mackrell that are now our humanities program managers. And we have Lori Curtis, who is our early literacy and dyslexia program manager. And then Stephen King and Meg Richards are our STEM program managers. And they've been doing a lot of work getting ready for some staff that we're going to be bringing in. And I'm going to hand it over to Meg to start, and we'll share a lot of information, and I'll be monitoring chat. So if you have questions, go ahead and post them in the chat and I'll make sure to answer. So Meg.
I actually think it's me, David, but that's okay. Hi,
Sorry,
everyone.
Meg. Go ahead, Joanne.
No worries. Joanna Mackrell, I am one part of the team of the humanities program managers. What we're going to do is we're going to take this minute to talk to you about the Teacher Leader Program. What is it? Why was it founded? And when do we start? And what's happening? So as Brett suggested earlier, this kind of was born out of continuous learning and navigating change, and watching what we call our rock star teachers move forward into carrying a load of what went out to the field, and high quality preparation and pedagogy as far as the navigating change document. And that's where I met my co-program manager and was impressed with the knowledge, and still am today. But what this is, the Teacher Leader Program, is all it is elevating great teachers. They signed up July to September, and then we went through the painstaking task of starting to reach out to these teachers and kind of decide what we were going to do as far as the expertise with the strategies and the methods and the pedagogies, and dividing that up into STEM and humanities, and moving that forward of bringing those teachers on board to help us with the evidence-based practice and the current trends in education. So what is actually the Teacher Leader Program? We look at it as it's actually in two parts. So when we refer to teacher leaders, we have two groups. One of them is the Teacher Leader Consultant, and that is a part-time KSDE employee who is going to come on board, and for many of us kind of be our inner circle in order to plan and devise our roads forward for the upcoming year. The other part that makes up our Teacher Leader Program are our field educators, and these are people who have specialized knowledge in the projects that we're trying to move forward. And so these two together equal up our Teacher Leader Program. what they will do is work on professional development for us. They will reach out to schools as far as possible mentoring opportunities and some capabilities. And also what they're just going to be in our back pocket, if no other thing, to move our vision, Kansas vision, forward. They will be coming from all 10 districts. One of the things that we've started to in the last week, because of sub shortages, and we kind of planned for this, is that we're not going to be taking these people directly out of your classrooms. You already have enough juggling happening. We only have them coming out of the classroom on our kickoff date, which is January 24th and 25th for TLCs, but only January 25th for the field educators. We are limiting it to 4 dates out of the classroom, including those dates that they have already been. And if you look, our next meeting for our people, we are arranging these outside of their contract day, so substitute teaching won't be an issue. We also have some that are doing some online presentation work that will not impact their duties as far as school is concerned. So that is our teacher leader program. And I'm going to turn it over to Stephen to show you some of the exciting projects that we have coming up.
Hey, good morning, this is Stephen King. I hope you can hear me. I am half of the STEM program manager team with the fabulous Meg Richard. And since nobody else has said it yet, I do want to point out that there is only, as fabulous as she is, there's only one of her. It's Meg Richard. So if you're trying to contact her, it's the singular Richard, not people keep saying Richards, but so anyway, Meg Richard is my counterpart here. So we are planning a few different activities over the next several months. It'll be kind of exciting. One is book studies. To be honest, I kind of want to read all 5 of these. I want you to, I just kind of throw these up for books that we've already got on order and are looking at launching into having facilitated a book study or 2 here at KSDE myself. I got to tell you that facilitating a book study is actually much more meaningful to me than just reading the book, although reading the book obviously is awesome. These are some good books. I'm looking forward to this. Next slide. So a couple other things we're talking about doing this summer. We are talking about our summer academies. We're going to be bringing together various disciplines in 3 different locations in 1 virtual setting so that we get a chance to take a deep dive into teaching these different topics. We're about to put out a save the date planner thing that shows some of the different disciplines we're going to be talking in, but it really does boil down to almost every discipline we deal with here at KSDE. So June 7th and 8th then is going to be in Manhattan, June 21st and 22nd in Goddard, 12th and 13th Garden City. And the reason this is coming up is because we hope our teacher leaders are going to be an integral part of doing this. We do have our first meeting here coming up where we get to talk to our teacher leaders and plan and see who wants to be helpful doing what. And so this is going to be really exciting as we go through planning these 2-day events, the summer academies coming next summer. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to, I think, our Nathan.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to continue with some of our offerings and initiatives, and we're going to, this summer, conduct what we're calling teacher treks. And we're going to have these all over the state. These are going to bring together several disciplines, interdisciplinary work at several sites in the state of Kansas that are connected to a unique place in Kansas. So on June 4th, we're going to go out to Scott City and visit El Cortalejo, and the oldest Pueblo village in Kansas, that archaeological site. June 11th, we'll be in Concordia, and we'll be talking about the orphan trains. June 25th, McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita, and that'll be cybersecurity, so that should be really cool. July 9th, we'll be in Greensburg, Kansas, and we'll be looking at green energy, the largest hand-dug well, which is really cool. And then on July 23rd, we will end with Big Brutus in Mineral City. And all of these will bring together the disciplines of ELA, history, government, social studies, science, math, all of those, and have something for teachers to take back to their classroom. In addition to that, we have read-alongs. Our first is a partnership with Gilder Lehrman out of New York City and the Education Hamilton program with the book No Small Potatoes. Now, what's really exciting about this, we just learned yesterday that we will have Julius Thomas, who is Hamilton on Hamilton, and he will be the person reading our book, No Small Potatoes. We'll do the recording, and then what we're hoping to have is a bank of these read-alongs on the KSDE website. The other is the story of the Doctum sit-in with Priska Barnes out of Wichita. And our third is a vote for Susanna, which is about Susanna Salter, the first woman mayor in U.S. history from Kansas, Argonia. And that is Karen M. Greenwald. And then we'll just continue to build this and put these on the KSD website, as I said earlier, and use those for our elementary education. And I will hand it over to Meg.
Good morning, and thank you, Nathan. I wish Bill Losey was still on the call, because at this point when I shared, but it is our intent that all of these things are beneficial and meaningful to your teachers. Some opportunities for them to get those licensure points, including asynchronous Moodle courses, those targeted summer opportunities that Nate was talking about, and then additional communication and collaboration with our service centers. We also want to provide opportunities for teachers to connect and collaborate. Someone had put in the Mentee, work smarter, not harder. And so to do that, we're looking at developing regional quarterly PLCs, communities of practice, and then increasing our availability on our website.
Well, I'm Lori Curtis, and I am the Early Literacy Dyslexia Program Manager, and it's really great to see all of you today because I am new here, and I am going to talk to you about how you can find out more about all of these great things that you just heard about, and one is to visit the Career Standards Assessment Services page on the KSDE website. And at that page, I would encourage you to continue scrolling down because you will find opportunities where you can actually learn more and also register for some of those events that you just heard about. So it's great to be a part of this team.
So like we stated in the chat, the flyer is going to be sent out today about the summer academies. We hope to see most of you, if not all of you, in person, or if you can't make it in person, there is that virtual date, the 4th date. And so be watching your email later today for that to be coming out. And Brad, I think handing it back over to you.
Okay, so thank you very much. Did anyone have questions for that team before we move on? Give you just a moment here. All right, we will be turning it over now to Julie Ewing, who is going to share some information on assessments.
Thank you, Pat. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
We're seeing the presenter view. Can you switch?
I will see if I can swap it. How about that?
Much better. Thank you.
All right. Good morning. My name is Julie Ewing, the assessment coordinator, and thank you for giving me some time to share some assessment information with you. We hold monthly test coordinator meetings, and if you haven't joined us before, I would welcome you to join us. They are on Zoom, Tuesdays at 1:30. We did have one this week, and it was all about KELPA. So if you are giving the KELPA and you missed that, you can see the recording that is posted at the ksassessments.org page. And also the PowerPoint is available for you to look at as well. The 21 accountability reports are posted on the KSDE homepage. So if you visit our homepage and look in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, there's a blue button that is labeled accountability reports, and you can find those there. For district test coordinators, they were busy in November completing their online training for security and ethics. If you are a district test coordinator or and are getting ready to administer the KELPA assessment, all of that training must be completed before the KELPA window opens. So all of that needs to be completed January 30th. If you are not giving the KELPA, then all of the security and ethics training need to be done before the CAP window opens, which is March 18th. The KELPA is the Kansas English Language Proficiency Assessment, and it is given to all K-12 students that qualify for ESOL services. The testing window opens the end of this month. The training webinar that I mentioned earlier is located on the kansasassessments.org page. You can look at that. We have the KELPA Examiner's Manual posted as well. And then we have, if you're familiar with KELPA, we have some items that are human scored. So teachers are scoring some of the writing and all of the speaking items. And we have added more rater training materials this year. So that is all located in the Kite Educator portal. Just want to make you aware that it is posted and available now for you to look at. If you have participated in the interim predictive assessments, we have been updating our interim report with cluster mapping. The last window for this year will be January 31st through February 11th. And we really have been doing a lot of different things on our report. So if you haven't done anything with interims, let me know and I'll be glad to show you those new reports. If you would like to volunteer to give us some feedback on those new reports, we really want to make them as friendly as possible so you can really use them. We're recruiting people to give us some feedback. They will, the focus groups will be online between February 14th and the 25th. They haven't been scheduled yet. But if you are interested, the email for CAP is listed there, or you can send me an email. This is for people that have been using interims in the past, or even if you're brand new and you've never seen the report before, we would still like your feedback. It's always good to have fresh eyes on something. ACT is coming up this spring, and today is the last day for you to go in and verify your student enrollment. So make sure that if you haven't done that already, that you will do that now. And if you have any questions about ACT, Lee Jones is the person to contact, and his information is on this slide. Dynamic Learning Maps, DLM, is our alternate assessment. And if you have any questions with that, please contact Carrie Rogers. Kansas Assessment Program, or CAP as we call it, is coming up. And I wanted to share the testing window with you because we won't meet again for this meeting until April. So the testing window for that is planned for March 21st to the April 29th. And we do have the examiner's manual online as well, so you can get that downloaded and view that. History, Government, and Social Studies. probably already know this. It is required for districts this year for grades 4, 7, and 11. And Nathan McAllister is your person to talk to with this if you have any questions. But we'll be sending out some more information to you later. And put together some guidelines and things for those EOYA records if you have any questions. And I know that everyone shared their resources and contacts, the program managers, but here, if you have any questions with Kids Help Desk, Kite, all of our information is available. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. Are there any questions for Julie or the Career Standards and Assessments team? All right. Looks like we're ready to move on. We will be moving on to our Special Education and Title Services team for an update.
There we go. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. My name is Dean Zeitz, and I am the State and Federal Programs Coordinator on the Special Education and Title Services team. And first up, if I just get a quick thumbs up or something saying that you can see a PowerPoint. I'll settle for any PowerPoint, doesn't have to be mine. Okay. Thank you. All right, very good. So we have lots of things happening in the world, but we wanted today to take just a moment to provide some updates around one piece of ESSER 3 plans that are in the works and being turned in by districts throughout the state, and in particular, evidence and engagement. And so what we're really talking about is evidence and engagement. So even if you don't do anything at all with ESSER or ESSER 3 or anything else with that, this is still going to be good information for you, because this applies to everything we do in schools at all levels. So let's see, first up. So first, we want to talk a little bit about meaningful consultation. And I say meaningful consultation because that's the exact term that's used in the law, and that is the standard by which we are evaluating these new ESSER 3 applications that are coming in from districts. And what are we talking about when we talk about meaningful consultation? There we go. Well, I still always go back to this wonderful quote from one of our former assistant directors, Sandy Guidry, who said, "If you don't do it with me, you're doing it to me." And I can't think of a better way to kind of sum up the concept of what it is to have meaningful engagement, and actively and meaningfully engaging your stakeholders. And while I think most of us probably have some concept of what we talk about, what we mean when we're talking about stakeholder engagement and consultation, but even if you've never ever had any experience with it at all, you can even think about it as a lot of us have been doing different remodeling and things around the house over the last year or two between the pandemic and kind of everything else. And if you have to be home more, you want it to look a little nicer. And if you've had the experience of doing any kind of remodel, like a kitchen, and if you have a spouse who picks everything out and does it all for you and then tells you about it after the fact, maybe you end up with something that you wanted, or maybe you end up with gold and pink and who knows what, which maybe you want. But if they told you after the fact rather than consulting as you go, you don't really know, and you didn't have meaningful input into what you got out of that. So engagement is absolutely critical. And when we're talking about meaningful engagement with respect to the ESSER 3 and the American Rescue Plan Act, we are talking about meaningfully engaging with some specific stakeholder groups within your community. And the list of the 7 categories that you see here on the screen are specific categories that are included in the law that each of which must be meaningfully consulted with prior to finalizing, and hear what I said there, prior to finalizing your ARP ESSER plan. Because if you finish the plan and then talk to folks, you didn't give them a chance to meaningfully consult. You told them about it after the fact, you posted it, but that's not consultation. And you may see, as you look over this, you'll see some groups that many of you probably are already familiar with and have experience reaching out to and speaking to. But you probably also see some groups on here that you're like, well, I don't know who in the world I would talk to within my district for that group, or who to reach out to, or where to start, or maybe we don't have anyone in that category in my community. Well, NA is not an acceptable response when you're replying to this in the application. And in some ways, this goes beyond even just ESSER 3. While every single district is required by the law to explain to KSDE and then vis-a-vis to the U.S. Department of Education and the public, how you meaningfully engaged with each of these groups. This is also just a good exercise generally in transparency and stakeholder and community engagement with our own communities, regardless of how big of a community we are or where we are located. Because I'm from a small community. I think many of you probably are, or if you're not now, you've maybe have lived in the past. And we do know that, yeah, there's a difference in the groups that are active in some communities where there might be more organization of different civil rights groups or other groups. But that doesn't mean that the folks that those groups represent aren't in our communities. And at the end of the day, what's required by the law and what's right for kids is to seek out information and opportunities to connect with members of these groups or representatives of some of these different populations that have either been traditionally marginalized or just are maybe not folks that we interact with every day. And I'm not typically a fan of including dictionary definitions, but in this case, again, I really want to call out that the specific requirement in this particular law is this meaningful consultation, that serious, important, or useful quality, and consultation, the action of process of formally consulting or discussing. This is a much higher standard than we've had in really any other federal or, to my knowledge, state program that we've operated. Typically, what you see is more along the lines of a requirement to post a plan after the fact or post data after the fact. That's not the requirement here. The requirement is meaningful consultation. And that's why we tell folks that when you are responding here, it's not enough to simply say, well, we posted something on the school's website, or we put something on our Facebook page. That we're not saying you can't do that. That may be one piece of your comprehensive plan to push out, to reach out, but it is an activity to seek this input from stakeholders. And now we kind of get to a point where I want to say that we feel like we could do a better job here at KSD to help you do that push out, and to help you make those connections that aren't already there, because that's where we have those challenges, is reaching out to those groups that maybe we don't already have pre-existing connections with. And it can be difficult to understand, well, where do I even start? Do I go on Google? Do I just look it up? Where do you even start from? So we are at KSDE putting together some specific resources that'll be coming out here in the next week or so around this. But just in general, some of the best information that we've come across is, of course, there's number one, reaching out to other local community, county, or city leaders to pick their brains and try to identify different stakeholder groups or opportunities or organizations that may be in your community that you're not aware of, as well as making some connections on how to engage with them. But then separately, don't be afraid to reach out to some national organizations or other state organizations that represent some of these groups that are included in that are called out in the law, and ask for help from them. Let them know that, hey, I'm in USD whatever, and we're working on our plan for these millions of dollars in relief aid, and we want to make sure that we're serving all of our students. And so we'd really like some help if you could provide it on how to connect with any local affiliates that may be in our community, or just or if you have any other suggestions on how we could get input on our plan. And because again, we know it can be hard to understand where to even start with this. So we've begun to assemble a list of just some, it's not an exhaustive list. You don't have to contact all these folks. You don't have to contact necessarily any of these, although this is a place to start, of different civil rights organizations and others that you could reach out to if you're struggling with where to start and who to talk to when you do look at that requirement to reach out and meaningfully consult civil rights organizations and representatives of different student groups. Also, as I'm going through this, because I know there's going to be questions coming in the chat, and I think I see one at least already. I think Tateman's on also, and we may have a couple of others on our team. So we'll try to, oh, perfect, Tate's already on it. We'll try to answer those in the chat as we go along. And once I get to the end, you'll see too, we've got some additional opportunities coming up. All right. So we've talked a little bit about meaningful engagement. The next piece I want to talk about is the evidence-based support. So this is the other real fundamental piece that people seem to be struggling with within the ESSER 3 plan submissions, because here again, there is a higher bar than what is typical of other federal programs and other state programs. And for ESSER 3, specifically what we're talking about is that no less than 20% of the funds that a district receives for ESSER 3, that's the ARP ESSER, at least 20% of that has to go towards evidence-based interventions. And then there's some examples given in the law, such as, doesn't have to be one of these, but it could be such as summer learning or summer enrichment, extended day, et cetera. I won't read them all. And these evidence-based interventions must address the disproportionate impact of COVID on student subgroups. So there's two pieces to this requirement. There's one, the evidence-based element, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in a second. But two, that focus on addressing those resources to those subgroups that were most disproportionately impacted in your district. And when we talk about that piece, connecting the dots there, I really want to call out that we're looking for information from the district. We're looking for a narrative from the district that describes how did you identify what subgroups were most impacted in your district? What kids were most impacted by the pandemic in your district? That could be some kind of formative assessment data. It could be survey data on social emotional wellness. I mean, there are any number of things that you could use. There's really not a right or wrong answer, but we are going to be looking for what have you been doing in your district to determine where your kiddos are at and who needs the most help and most support. And we know that you're doing this already, that this is something that's already occurring. We just need you to help us connect the dots so that we can connect that data-driven identification of kiddos back to the best support to meet the need that you've identified with that data. It's all about connecting the dots and delivering effective services based on information. So when we talk about evidence-based supports in ESSER 3. What we're talking about is evidence-based as it's defined in the Elementary and Secondary Education Act in ESEA. And first thing I want to say here is that this is a different standard. It's not the same. It's not necessarily the same standard as what you may be familiar with state at-risk funding. And I want to say kudos to Pat Hill and Jean Rush for some work they've done on helping to flesh out some additional resources on that. Again, we'll have more that's going to be coming soon, but they've done a lot of work on this on our team. But when we're talking about the ESEA standard for evidence-based supports, there are 4 specific and explicit tiers of evidence that would meet these requirements. Okay, if whatever you want to do, if you can't point to and connect the dots to here's how this specific support or intervention meets one of these 4 tiers, it won't pass muster. Okay, it can't just be, well, it's just common sense that it will work. That doesn't pass muster. You've got to be able to point to a specific study, as in like tiers 1, 2, and 3, where it talks about well-designed, well-implemented, controlled experimental studies or quasi-experimental studies, et cetera. You got to be able to point to real world data where it's been analyzed and shown to have an effect. Or, and this is really important, or number 4, that demonstrate a rationale where you don't have to be able to point to an existing study that shows that what you want to do is effective, but whatever it is you're proposing to do should be based on a well-defined logic model or theory of action that is supported by research. So you've come up with an idea. You're going to operate, let's say, some kind of a summer program that's informed by research, because you're like, well, there's other data that shows that summer programs are effective, and so we're going to do X, Y, and Z. The kiddos are going to have an experiential summer camp for 2 weekends during the year, and we're going to include the family. I mean, there's all kinds of things you could do. Anyway, but so you come up with the what you're going to do, and you also clearly articulate what should happen if you do this well. Are we going to see an improvement in the student's social emotional status? Are we going to see gains in reading? Are we going to see gains in math? Come up with measurable goals. Measurable. This gets back to what Jay and Sarah and others are talking about back with Redesign. It's all about setting measurement, something that's measurable. Can we keep score on this? And then actually measure it to determine whether the thing had the impact you thought it was going to have. And if at the end of the day it doesn't, that's okay. We learn from it, and you use that data to improve services next go around. But the important thing is that you've got all of those elements in place, that you've got the plan, you've established a goal or an expectation of what should happen, and you've got something in place to objectively measure whether or not you've met that criteria. And I'm going to kind of go through this piece a little bit faster because this is just a little bit more information on the background for the 20%, and again a little bit more into that focus on especially meeting the needs of those most disproportionately impacted student subgroups. But the other thing that we do want to call out with respect to the 20% set aside, or any of the ESSER work really, we do want to emphasize that it is important to just build on existing work. Now, notice I did say it's building on existing work, it's not supplanting existing work. It's not using these funds to do something you're already doing, but rather look at what's been effective already in the district, or look at where an additional investment or scaffolding on additional supports will allow you to support your students even more. We really do encourage you to do that. And of course, all the way down there at the bottom with the, where you can build on existing relationships as well. And this kind of gets back to that consultation, meaningful consultation piece. Who needs to be at the table when these decisions are being made, so that you're building on those existing relationships and really coming up with new services that best support your school and your community. So with that, I think we are to any questions. And then also just as a FYI, again, we do have a number of additional supports and opportunities coming up, including some virtual office hours opportunities that will be coming up around the ESSER 3 applications and plans, as well as a new authenticated application within the KSDE system that will allow districts to enter their application electronically to make everyone's lives a lot easier, as well as some additional resources to help identify and connect with stakeholders, as well as delivering evidence-based supports. And all of that information may be found on the KSD website at the Federal Disaster and Pandemic Relief page. And we've included both the QR code as well as the link. And I know the PowerPoint is available as well with the rest of the materials from today's sessions. Or do feel free to reach out to us at esser@ksd.org with any and all of your ESSER questions. So with that, I'll pause for just a second to see if there's any questions. All right. Well, I know that I think we're running right on time, so I'm going to kick it back to you, Pat.
All right. Well, thanks, Dean. And again, I think the thing that the people have are probably challenged the most with is just, not just communicating with your community and stakeholders, but truly engaging them. And that is the biggest part of ESSER 3 that was not in ESSER 1 or 2. Should have been, should always be there, but not necessarily always happens. But we had to do the same thing with our 10% set aside. We couldn't just inform you what you were doing, so we pulled in superintendents. We had curriculum directors. We had teachers. I had all these stakeholders to figure out how we would spend ours and for what reason. So again, thanks for that, Tate. Amanda, are you the last on the?
I am indeed. So hi, everybody. Congratulations. You've made it to the last agenda item on a 2-hour-long Zoom on a Friday morning. So if you haven't gotten up in the last 2 hours, you might do some shoulder rolls. You might stretch and say hi. Oh, it's good to see some of you. I'm joined by my colleague, Jordan Christian. Jordan, do you want to come off mute and say hi?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jordan Christian, and I work with Amanda here on the early childhood team at KSDE.
So my name is Amanda Peterson. I'm the Director of Early Childhood. My contact information is in the chat, and I do not have a PowerPoint today because all of the information that I'm sharing today, our team is going to email out in our regular program updates next week once it's all finalized. As a reminder, we send those monthly emails out to be able to pull together the information so that you can find it in one place. You can find those on our KSDE Early Childhood webpage, and if you don't already receive emails from our KSDE Early Learning Listserv, you can email Becky Strom to get added so that you'll receive those updates. I want to start by saying thank you. I'm consistently just so impressed by the incredible things that are happening in Kansas communities. There's really not a day that goes by where we don't pick up the phone and hear a conversation from a leader who's really wrestling with, gosh, how do I expand early learning opportunities in my community? How do I address really critical needs for childcare? How do I make sure that we're able to continue providing home visiting services to families in a really challenging time? And how do we really, reckon with the fact that this pandemic is disrupting all of our lives in different ways, and that that has really big impacts for our youngest Kansans as they're going through a really critical period of brain development. So the piece that has most recently sparked joy, last night I was reading through Kansas Child, which is a magazine that goes out to all of the licensed childcare providers in the state. And there was a terrific article from Crystal Breeze and Concordia talking about the work that they're doing there to be able to expand access to childcare through community collaboration. I'm sure in any 12-hour period, I could pull a different example. This one really made me happy, and I wanted to pass it on to all of you because it's a really nice short piece. So we're going to talk about just 3 things today. We're going to be previewing some of what's ahead. And the first thing that we're talking about is the kindergarten readiness snapshot. When we're thinking about the great work that's happening in Kansas communities, you know, the work that we have all done as a state to really hone in and think about how we can be as ready as possible for students who are coming into the door for the first time, whether that's for preschool or for kindergarten, is really impressive. And communities across the state are doing great work to strengthen partnerships and really engage with families and really make sure that they are as prepared as possible to be able to support every incoming kindergartner to be successful as they enter kindergarten. Last year, for the first year, for the first time, we extended the window for the kindergarten readiness snapshot and said that if systems would like to begin administering that snapshot in the springtime when they were doing kindergarten roundup or other orientation activities, that would be acceptable and that data would count for the kindergarten readiness snapshot. No, that was really well received. And so we are going to next week be sending out an announcement that you will have the option to do that again for this upcoming year. We're going to say that April 1st is the window open date for districts that would like to begin administering the ASQ early. If you have something, and last year we said March 1st, we didn't have very many districts that were using the ASQ in March, but if you already have something planned for late March and you'd like to talk to us about doing it a little bit before April 1st, you'll be able to reach out to us. We're not intending that to be, we want to make sure that this is flexible and that it's meeting your needs. And the requirements in the process will be exceptionally similar to last year. So the link that I just put in the chat is the information from last year. Is going to look very similar. We want to make sure that a couple of things are happening. One, we really want to make sure that as you're engaging with families that they can complete that questionnaire, that somebody is reviewing that in a timely fashion and then following up with families. We know that because it's such a rapid period of child development, it doesn't do a whole lot of good for a family to complete the questionnaire in the springtime and then for somebody to look at it in August because a lot has changed in that amount of time. And so we'll want to make sure that there are good plans in place to be able to accept those screenings as they come in so that they're not sitting pending in the ASQ online system, and that you'll be prepared to follow up with families within 2 weeks of them completing the questionnaire to be able to share results and share next steps. We're able to provide, if any of that sounds unfamiliar to you and it would be helpful to get on the phone with Jordan Christian to talk through what that process looks like, we'd be more than happy to do that. And then the other thing that we really want to make sure is that these results are absolutely not being used as any kind of gatekeeper to keep children out of kindergarten. We know that the age of eligibility requirement is that children are 5 years old on or before August 31st, and they're able to enroll in kindergarten. And the kindergarten readiness snapshot is absolutely not intended to send children to anywhere except kindergarten when they're 5 years old on or before August 31st. So just to help make sure that you've got those plans in place and that you're prepared to be successful, there will be a very short Qualtrics survey that you'll be able to fill out. It'll again look very similar to the application for last year, and it's really helpful for us as we're providing information and as we're supporting you. And then you'll be able to go ahead and begin administering the kindergarten readiness snapshot in the springtime. We'll also include some other resources that we send out. As I said, there's a lot of communities that are doing terrific work in this area. We've had some of them present at the Great Ideas in Education Conference in November and have pulled together some other information. There will be a webinar that's dedicated to kindergarten transitions at noon on Wednesday, February 23rd. So all of that information we'll be sending out next week. Before I move on, do we have any questions about the kindergarten readiness snapshot, or anybody want to share that they did the kindergarten readiness snapshot in the springtime last year and that they're excited to do it again this year? All right, well, if you've got ASQ questions, Jordan Christian's email is in the chat and you can feel welcome to reach out to him. We're really happy to be supportive. And if you have folks who might be transitioning out of roles at the end of this year, I'd encourage you to make sure that you've got a plan in place to onboard your incoming kindergarten teachers and administrators so that they're prepared to administer the kindergarten readiness snapshot at the start of next school year. And we're happy to help with that if necessary. The other piece is just some general housekeeping items related to grants. I know that there is a lot on folks' plates right now as we're thinking about what's going on. So again, for the preschool aged at risk program, each year the State Board of Education approves those programs to confirm that they compliance with the program requirements that we set out. Again, the program requirements for next year will look exceptionally similar to what they look like right now. And the process for next year, we really don't want this to be stressful at the local level. And we're very much here to be able to share what you've submitted in the past and be able to get on the phone and talk through any of the questions in the program approval form as you're completing it. We'll be releasing that. We should be releasing it next week. And that program application will be due on April 1st. If you have any questions, you'll feel very welcome to connect with Natalie McLean. This should not be something that is stressful. This is not a competitive process. There are not a set number of slots. We just want to make sure that approved preschool aged at risk programs are meeting the requirements that we have set out. And as a reminder, we moving forward will be funding both 3- and 4-year-old preschool aged at risk students who are enrolled in approved programs on count day. Do we have any questions about preschool aged at risk programming? Terrific. We've also got a number of people who are looking at their indicator 6 data or thinking about how they can best serve their preschool students with disabilities. As a reminder, you need to be meeting the state targets for indicator 6, which refers to the extent to which students with disabilities are served in inclusive settings. You have to be meeting the state targets if you'd like to be eligible to apply for STAR recognition in the area of kindergarten readiness. So a number of people have been digging into that data and making sure that it's reported accurately and thinking about how they can best serve students with disabilities. If you would like some personalized support in reviewing your data and understanding how it's reported, Julie Rand on our team, her email is in the chat, and she is a terrific resource on this topic and would love to connect with you to talk through your data. And then the very last piece, for those of you whose job responsibilities include Kansas parents as teachers, the 2022-2023 grant applications are available on our website, and the link is in the chat. Those applications are due on April 1st. And again, this should not be something that is terribly stressful. Nis Wilbur on our team has done a terrific job engaging with Kansas parents as teachers coordinators over the past several months. And we have had a lot of conversations about how we can best make funding decisions for this upcoming year. If you request the same amount of money that you currently receive, you can expect to continue receiving that level of funding. We are providing some additional support to districts that they can take a look at their budget and assess whether they would like to request a reduced amount. If they do, then there may be those additional funds that are available to reallocate to other programs, but otherwise folks can expect to receive the same amount of funding that they do currently. And I will note, I know that many of you have worked with Nis over the past several years. She's been just a terrific champion for providing quality experiences for kids and families in the state. She's going to be moving on to new professional adventures. Her last day in the office will be next week, Friday. So we've got a good plan in place to make sure that we continue to provide support for our Kansas Parents as Teachers programs as we prepare to seek out our new team member to fulfill those responsibilities. If we've got any questions related to anything early childhood, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, I think that you'll get about 10 minutes back in your Friday morning, and I hope that you'll enjoy it.
All right, well, thank you, Amanda. I've just kind of been following the chat here, and I don't see any leftover questions. Anybody from the team see anything that we've missed? If not, just a second here. I gotta do, this is pretty cool. I got my phone out here. Monty, I think, just like any other administrator, is on the phone, but I got my camera, I'm looking at, I think this is the first time in history I've got Monty and just one down and one to my right is Cindy. So I've got the duo, Monty and Cindy, on the same screen. Look at that. Cindy's just smiling. Monty's still at work. Doesn't even know we're talking about him. But anyway, yeah, it's the Couchman double whammy. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. So, hey, I want to thank everybody, all of you. We are extremely proud to work with you. And you've got to let us know what we can do to help relieve your stress, anything we can do to make anything more streamlined. We know it's not the same as it's always been. So much of this requires new learning. So you can help us out on that. And we are going, when Amanda says you get free 10 minutes, the last thing you want me is to eat up your free 10 minutes. So I'm going to let you all go and enjoy, hopefully for many of you, an extended weekend, and we will see you all soon. Thanks, everybody.